Alright, in today's video I'm going to talk about all the different types of progressions one last time, because over the last 3 weeks we have covered linear, step and wave progression, each in a singular video, and in those videos we really focused on how those programs actually work. But in today's video I'm going to compare those three and see when to use what kind of program. So without further ado, let's dive into today's video. We're gonna start off with linear progression, and this is one of the best forms of progression for absolute beginners. When you just start out, the best thing you can do is to take the simplest form of progressive overload, just pick a rep range and increase your weight linearly over a period of time. Doing it this way is very effective for beginners to actually build a solid amount of strength without having to overcomplicate your training by doing step or wave programs. And my advice to you is to write this out as long as you possibly can. If you are still making progress on a linear program, there's absolutely no reason to overcomplicate things and go to wave or step loading. So as you are a beginner, just pick a rep range, overload that rep range for as long as possible. When you hit a plateau, drop the rep range. So let's say you've been working in sets of 10 for the last 2 months, go to sets of 8 and just keep increasing the weight linearly over time. Once again, I've done a full video on linear programming a couple of weeks ago, so if you're not really sure how to do this, make sure to actually watch that video. But once again, keep doing this for as long as you humanly can. Keep your training as simple as possible for as long as you can before going into any other form of progression. Linear progression is also very effective if you just start out an exercise that you have never done before. So just to give you guys an example, I started bench pressing a couple of months ago and I really had never done that kind of stuff before, and all I did was simply just 3 sets of 5 and just linearly increase my weight every single week. And just by doing that, I went from a 3x5 on 50 to a 3x5 on 90 kilograms over the span of a couple of months. And that was because even though I had a solid amount of pushing strength, I was still new to bench pressing. So I could just use linear progression on my bench press. And the reason you can do this is because as you start off a new exercise, you are technically still a beginner at the exercise, which still allows you to then progress linearly on that exercise that you just start out with. And that was the word exercise 15 times in one sentence. Anyway, let's go on to the next progression, which is going to be wave progression. I think that wave progression is something you should definitely consider once you hit a plateau on your normal linear progression, because at some point that simply is no longer going to keep working for you. So at that point, I probably think you should definitely take a look at wave progression and on a couple of programs and see how you respond to wave loading. This is something I did on pretty much all of my main compound exercises a couple of months ago once I started progressing on a simple linear setup, and it actually worked wonders for me. Like my squat went through the roof, my dips went through the roof, and my pull-ups as well. So literally everything started progressing nicely again once I went from linear to wave programming. Wave loading is also extremely effective on very big compound exercises, and it is kind of building onto the last point. As you grow stronger on the basic compound movements, they will benefit more and more from having more recovery throughout your programs. And this goes for all the big compound exercises like pull-ups, dips, squats, deadlifts, like pretty much any very big compound exercise. You will benefit hugely from applying wave loading in your program. And then finally, let's talk about step loading. So step loading is extremely effective if you want to widen out your base, really focus on building out your foundation and increasing your work capacity. If you are someone that is going to look into foundational work and widening your base out, you should definitely consider trying a step loading program. It's also very effective to increase your tolerance to certain percentages, and this goes for both high and low reps. If you're someone that has a very low tolerance to higher reps, doing a step loading program with that specific rep range can be extremely effective, and the same goes for low reps. If you find that you really cannot tolerate that much heavy weight, it can definitely be very effective to increase your tolerance to heavy weights by running a step loading program. And then finally, I personally tend to use step loading on the vast majority of my accessory exercises, because what I do on pretty much all of my accessory exercises is simply pick a weight and work that weight up to a certain amount of reps before increasing it. So let's say I'm doing chest supported dumbbell rows for a 3x10 on 40 kilograms. That will be very difficult for the first few weeks, but once I can actually do a 3x10 kind of easily, only then I will increase the weight and then go for 42.5 kilograms. That way the 3x10 will feel kind of heavy, and I will simply work my way back up towards a very easy 3x10, keeping the weight essentially the same. So that is in essence step loading, and I tend to do that on the vast majority of my accessory exercises. And that is essentially all I wanted to cover in today's video. If you still have any more questions regarding any of the progression models, leave it down below in the comment section, and I'll answer that right there. For now, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already, and share the video. If you have any more questions, video ideas, or advice, leave it down below in the comment section, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys for watching, and latest.